Roger John Madden. It's about 8:45 on Tuesday, the 23rd of December. And I'm on my way from the Salvation Army shelter, which is back in that direction, over to A-Hope. Oh, that's me. I have to turn it around. A-Hope is over there. That's where the homeless people go in the morning. And I have to go over there because Sammy is going to return to me the beautiful red gloves I left in his car Tuesday last week on my way to the open mic session. And some other people are going to return to me my beautiful black bag that's got half of my IDs and my passport. It's also got the charger for my phone and my paycheck from bell ringing. That's going to give me $100 to get me through the rest of the month, which will be a lot of money. And last night I had such a fabulous night at the Toastmasters class. I did my talk about being too much for everybody, and it turned out to be a spectacular evening, and I'll put a link to that video, which hasn't been put up yet. So this morning I woke up so peaceful and so quiet and just moving super, super slow. And because I was peaceful and quiet and super slow, a bunch of miracles happened around the shelter. Yeah. I was smoking out on the fire escape with Barbara, who's so sick all the time. I really do fear she's going to die, and she could. So I thought, what's a blessing I could give to her? And so when I went to leave the fire escape, I said, Barbara, would you mind if I just give your butt just a little pat because it's looking so great? She says, you don't want to do that. That would unleash a force you may not be ready for. And I said, so I stood next to her then and I said, but it could be something amazing that we both would remember the rest of our lives. And she said, you'd be working off that trauma the rest of your life. So I went back into the cafeteria. And in the cafeteria, Ed, who's the guy who told me, you're so combative all the time, you're always getting in people's shit. I talked about that in the video last night. And so I just went with him. Every crabby thing he said, every nihilistic thing he said, all the ways he was bitching and complaining, I just would say, that's really a hard thing for you. And I just didn't resist anything. And he had a shirt on that matched my hat, and that was awesome. And he said, when I go out to Canton today for my job out there, and he's always bitching about Mexicans, and why do you like Mexicans? He's so mad at me that I like Mexicans. He said, there's a Mexican family out there that has a food truck, and they make a beef quesadilla that you'll remember the rest of your life, and I'll get you one and bring it back to you. And that was perfect. We got super peaceful with each other. And then Cecilia, who's a new girl, she's in her 70s for sure, and very frail and quiet, mostly doesn't say anything and kind of in her own world, but there's some other new girls that know her and kind of take care of her. And on her way out of the cafeteria, she stopped by my table, and I said, you have such a beautiful face. Your face is full of love. Do you have children? She said, I have 8 children. I said, wow. Those children are all really lucky to have you as their mother. Are you going to see them at Christmas? And she said, yes, but it sounds like no, really. She said, but my firstborn is way out in Seattle, and she's a designer, and she makes big bucks, and she never talks to me. And I said, well, you got her off to a good start. I think your love is part of the foundation of why she's been so successful. And she said, that's probably true. She said, how about you? Do you have children? I said, yes, I have a 50-year-old son who doesn't talk to me for several years now and says he never will. And you could see the shock and the pain in her face, and she got really soft, and she says, I'm going to pray for you and for him. She had me give her his name, Terry. And we just kept looking at each other's eyes, and I said, you're so loving. Those children were really lucky. And she says, I did my best. I never beat them. Their father did that. So Appalachia. So Appalachia. And we just didn't want to release each other's eyes. We just kept looking in each other's eyes. And I said, now I'm your friend. And she said, yeah, I think you are. And she reached over and gave me a big hug, kind of a half hug because I was sitting and she was standing, but it was a wonderful little hug. And she went off and I said, well, we'll have a wonderful day. And it was really quiet in the cafeteria because Thomas Williams, who plays Christmas music on his radio, but also fills the room with his complaints and his how bad the young people are, and he's a horrible presence in there. And I said to the two women, I miss Thomas's Christmas music. And they said, who's he? They didn't know who he was. And then a black guy who, I don't know his name, but we always look in each other's eyes and give each other fist bumps. And I said to him, awful quiet in here without Thomas. And he said, yeah, it's a lot more peaceful in here, isn't it? I said, yeah, I can kind of go with that. I'm really all right with that because he's gone home to Colombia to see his family. And then, on my way out of the shelter, Fred, who's part of the bell ringing team, he does all the driving, and he's drunk, I think, some of the time, and bad-mouthing lots of other people all the rest of the time. He started telling me about the Christmas story. And then Jesus came. And I said, not in a sexual way, right? He said he ignored that. And he continued to preach and said such beautiful things about peace on earth. I said, are you a preacher too? He says, sure, I preach every Sunday. I said, I want to come to your service because you're a hell of a preacher. And somewhere along in there, I lost the bottle cap that was supposed to go on that bottle there. I knew it was in my pocket somewhere, but there was all kinds of stuff in my pocket. And I remembered Vic, our caddy master, when I was in high school and caddying at the Riverside Country Club. Vic the Prick. We all called him Vic the Prick. He basically was. But his famous line to me that I'll never forget was I was digging for a golf tee that he asked me for, and I had all kinds of stuff in my pocket, and he said, Madden, get the shit out of your pockets. I thought, that's a defining thing for my whole life. Right down to this moment, I can't find the bottle cap. I said, Vic the Prick prophesied the struggle I would have the whole rest of my life. And so, peace is descending on Asheville, the little homeless corner of Asheville, and I hope it is in your life also. Bye-bye.